What's up, analysts? So, today I'm going to have a verdict for Dollar General. In the last video, I did a little bit of financial work on the company, and I looked into their liquidation value, return on invested capital, shareholder friendly management, things like that. And since that video, I've done a little bit of research into the qualitative aspects of the company. And so I first want to look at this verdict note right here, and I want to go through each point and talk about them. So, first of all, there's sort of a controversy over the industry's pay and working conditions problems. CNN put out this article with a crazy headline that 49 people have been killed at Dollar General stores. Workers are protesting for safer conditions. And the gist of this article says that there's been unsafe conditions because it says inspectors commonly found aisles, emergency exits, fire extinguishers, and electrical panels blocked by merchandise and boxes stacked unsafely. And also because of less pay. Pay as low, like pay very low at Dollar Tree as well as Dollar General. And that's sort of how these companies work, because they have such discounted products. They are able to maintain a healthy operating margin, which is their operating income divided by revenue. That margin is maintained by saving on costs like labor. And so there's definitely concern that the labor that they have is not getting paid enough for their work. There's a great video, though, called The Economics of Dollar General that Wall Street Journal put out. And it talks a little bit about the pay of these people, like what exactly they're getting paid for, why it is so low. And here we can talk a little bit about that. We can show the video.
Dollar General, you're gonna see metal shelves. It's gonna be quite bare bones. Think linoleum, think bright lighting. You won't see a lot of people working there.
By paying low wages to a minimal, often part-time staff, the company keeps labor costs low. The median annual income for employees is just over $16,000, according to Dollar General.
So boom, like you can tell that this company is trying to cut costs, wherever it can. And that is their whole idea is, they are able to charge very low prices for their products, using these kind of cutting corners, you could say. So that can be a concern. However, those working condition issues and so forth can be overcome. In the past, you had horrible working conditions in the early 1920s across almost the entire business world, and that was able to be completely overturned. Not completely, but to a point where the businesses were able to thrive once again. So I don't think that is a existential threat to the company. So far, that can be sort of resolved, that point, even though people should be paid more fairly. But may be resolved with the old CEO's return. So Todd Vassos is his name. Is someone who retired in 2023 and who is now back at the company. He's now the CEO. He was there previously for 7 years, so from about 2016 to 2023. And he is back, and he quotes saying, "I look forward to getting back to work with the broader team as we strive to return to a position of operational excellence for our employees and customers and deliver sustainable long-term growth and value creation for our shareholders." Especially like those last few words. But basically what this guy did for the company is he grew the revenue by almost 80%, added about 7,000 stores according to this article, and he may have some say in reversing this trend, this working condition safety problem. So that can be a good possibility of a comeback. He has also been more shareholder friendly. If you look at the number of shares outstanding for Dollar General during his service, so you can go to revenue, financials, shares outstanding. that actually went down significantly. So 2016 from about here, and then 2023 to about here. And then since the new CEO has been in, he hasn't even had any share repurchases. So basically, this guy is a lot better for increasing shareholder value, which is another plus. Next, Popshelf idea is a good possibility with positive online reviews. Popshelf is their new idea to sort of diversify across their customer base. Right now, they're mainly focused in lower income rural America. They have kind of carved out this strong market hold where they go to cities where there aren't Walmarts and they're, kind of food starved, like they don't have a lot of grocery stores or discount stores or for any type of supplies, and they take over those locations. And so the key thing about Popshelf is that these are now going to be places in suburban areas, so a little bit higher income, and that will allow them to diversify and have a little bit more stability in terms of macroeconomic events, because the rural America class is vulnerable in times of inflation because of their lower incomes. And that is what we have been seeing with their drop in net income, slight drop, might I add, due to this inflation recently. So Popshelf may be a good possibility for them, just to show you what it looks like. It's sort of a fun party store, not so much for essentials and groceries, but it seems that people enjoy the Popshelf stores online. They have positive Google reviews, and even though the company still strives to maintain its bottom line of rural America stores, this can be something for the top line that could add some growth to the stock. So, to the company, I should say. So, the next one, fierce competition with Walmart and Dollar Tree. Walmart is obviously a huge brand, and so is Dollar Tree. But, this is a big but. Walmart is a type of company where you wouldn't necessarily find in the most rural places. Dollar General goes where Walmart is not. And Walmart also, if I look up the number of stores, operates about 10,500 stores and clubs in 19 countries. I'm going to look at in the United States, though. So Walmart stores in the United States, 4,606. Now let's check out Dollar General stores in the United States. About 20,000 is what they're saying. So that is the big difference between Walmart and Dollar General. There are far more, about 5 times more Dollar General stores than Walmart stores, and they're going to be, at convenient places next to people who don't have access, who would normally have access to normal groceries and things like that. So, but Dollar Tree, on the other hand, is a similar kind of business to Dollar General. They have about the same number of stores in the United States at about 15,000 stores. This is, I don't know where they got that information, but it's about 15,500 stores across the 48 contiguous states. And Dollar Tree also owns Family Dollar, so that's a one that you might recognize if you've been in this sort of rural America area before. You may have stepped in one. But Dollar Tree, a little bit confusing to keep track of, has very disappointing profit margins as well. So that's in green is Dollar Tree, as well as operating margins going to negative, below zero, because they've experienced negative earnings for 2024 and also the dip in 2019, while Dollar General stayed basically at normal earnings levels. I mean, they had falling margins, of course, but it never dipped below zero. And Dollar Tree this struggle, this instability may be an opportunity for Dollar General to actually take back market share in the rural America areas. So just to conclude, so fierce competition with Walmart and Dollar Tree, but those can be overcome, as well as Walmart does not specifically cater to rural America, and Dollar Tree is highly unstable. Dollar General goes where Walmart is not. All right, next. So low ROIC. So ROIC stands for return on invested capital. And what that tells you was what is the earned percentage that the company makes on their invested capital, the capital that they use to operate their business. And that can be things like land, equipment, properties, and as well as all the current assets that they own for operations, inventory, receivables, minus non-interest bearing liabilities. And so that can be accounts payable, deferred income taxes, things like that. But they had a very low ROIC, which I calculated in the last video at about 5.6%. That is low. Usually I look for companies, even in between 10 and 20. Higher the better. But it may be concerning for now, but that is a result of their reduction in earnings. If we look at their return on assets, it's a different number, but it'll give us the same sort of idea of the trend. You can see that the blue line for Dollar General has been decreasing, and that will kind of give us an idea of what the return on invested capital looks like as well. And so it hasn't been a normal year for them in terms of return on invested capital, because their assets have remained extremely high. I'm going to just show Dollar General for now. Extremely high, even though their earnings, net income, has decreased. So that is something that affected the ROIC, that made it such a low value. But their normal ROIC is somewhere about 10%. So during 2023, during these years of prosperity, pretty normal years without inflation hurting their customer base as badly, they had ROIC about 10%, which is a solid level. Not as good as my other holding in Ulta Beauty, which is about 28%, but still solid. And the other reason, though, that they have their return on invested capital so low is because they lease most of their properties. And when you're doing the calculation for return on invested capital, you do not include their lease liabilities because it is interest bearing. And so when I did the invested capital, I didn't include this line right here. And I also didn't include this line. And that would actually affect the number, the percentage, quite significantly, because this is about $1.4 billion in lease liabilities. So what that means in short is that because of the nature of their business, which is to save cost, that means that they lease most of their properties, and that means that their return on invested capital is artificially low. So I found that very interesting. It doesn't negate the fact that the ROIC is low, and that is a little concerning, but it does give a reason that may be not so concerning as to the nature of their operations, of their business. And the final thing I want to talk about is decreasing operating margins are concerning. And when I talk about operating margins, like I said, it's the percentage of operating income divided by the revenue. And so when you look at this number, you see that over time it's definitely dropped. It started in 2010, which is about 13 years ago, 14, and then it ended about 5 today. And it kind of went up during the 2020 period because there was a huge surge in retail demand, but it has since dropped off. And that's not something that you like to see. You want to see that their operating margins are stable or expanding. I'm hoping that they can recover to at least 8% levels. And if not, that would be a signal for the stock to no longer be, or for the business for that matter, to no longer be very viable. Because failing operating margins are never a good sign. I mean, Walmart has also experienced falling. Dollar Tree, of course, in green has gone to negative values. But then you compare with a strong business that I know, like Costco, and they've had increases in operating margins over time. And Ulta Beauty, which I have investment in, also experienced increase. So in general, these operating margins figures are concerning. And that's kind of what is priced in to the decision to invest in a company. What is the price you are willing to pay is the question that I am trying to figure out for this company. Or if you're willing to pay any price, do you want to buy this stock at all? But the factors that go into that figure, what is the intrinsic value? What is the value of this investment, of this business? That idea, which is what Buffett has to go through every time he buys a business, what is it truly worth, is subject to all of the factors put together. If you have a company with a decreasing operating margin, but it has all these great other factors, you have to be able to increase the price that you would, or lower, the price that you would pay for the company due to these operating margins, but then have to increase it because there are all these other good factors. And when you look at this list that I made for the verdict, and you see there are some positives and negatives, the negatives mostly being the operating margins and low return on invested capital. Those are core business, existential threats. And you have to kind of figure, is the company undervalued enough to guard against those things from continuing to erode the business? And at a PE ratio of, say, about 14.8, or sorry, very, very incorrect on that. It's about, I have the exact number here, actually, 13.46 PE ratio, when the company has had about 5% accumulated annual growth rate, which means like each year over the past 10 years, they average about 5% growth in their earnings per share. So given those numbers, the question is this company undervalued? That's what is the intrinsic value of this company? And I think that the verdict is going to be it is undervalued. And the reason is because it has this size, it has this interesting business model where it creates a need for their customers in rural America to have Dollar General store near them. They very much monopolized the rural America area, and I think that is a very strong foothold to have. Their declining operating margins are definitely not a good sign, but the reason behind those operating margins decline seems to be a temporary thing, because macroeconomic events like inflation aren't everlasting, and to bet against the U.S. economy over the long term would not have bid you well for hundreds of years up to now. So there's no reason why I would at this point bet against the long-term appreciation of the U.S. economy. So given that, I think that the return on invested capital and operating margins can go back to stable values, higher values, 10% range I'd look for return on invested capital, operating margin probably around 8%. And if that doesn't come to fruition over the long term, and you see that their intrinsic value is just decreasing, and you paid a price that's now overvalued, then that's a time to sell. That's the definition of the time to sell, defined by Warren Buffett, defined by the authors who wrote Security Analysis. And that's kind of it. It's up to you whether you want to buy this stock. And I hope you enjoyed that video. Okay.